So sorry. Great. Evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Helen Rowbottom, and welcome to tonight's Children and Education Policy Accountability Committee. I am going to be introducing the different agenda items, and we have a busy agenda tonight, given that the last CPAC was postponed because of the general election. So we've got great special guests over the way as well tonight, and I'm going to aim to keep this to about 90 minutes max, because I realise it's a dark evening in November. But a few housekeeping points before we begin. So this event is being live streamed to the council's YouTube channel, so smile you on camera, and by participating you are just consenting to being recorded, if that's okay. If the fire alarm sounds, please leave the meeting by the staff fire exit, which is behind me to my right, and you'll go into Riverside Gardens. And then we'll go around and do introductions, just because we've got some great people in the room. And when you speak, try and remember to just say hello and who you are, just to remind everyone. So let's go round maybe and do the introductions. If I go to my left to Councillor Afzal Khan, first of all.
Hi, I'm Councillor Afzal Khan. I'm Councillor for Palace and Hurlingham Ward, and also Shadow Cabinet Member for Children and Education Services. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jackie McShannon, Executive Director of People. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Peter Haylock. I'm Director of Education in SEND.
Hi, Natasha Patton. I'm the Designated Clinical Officer for SEND in the NHS Integrated Care Board.
Hi, I'm Albie Fenner, and I'm the Youth Mayor, and I'm a part of the Youth Council.
Hi, I'm Precisa Getsvich, and I'm the Deputy Youth Mayor for Hammersmith Fulham.
Hi, I'm Mahiga Chandrasekhar, and I'm a member of Youth Council.
Hi everyone, I'm Elaf Al-Najjar, and I'm the Member of Youth Parliament for Hammersmith Fulham.
Hi everybody, I'm Brenda Winnett, and I'm the Borough's Youth Voice Coordinator.
Hi, Alistair Ayres. I'm Head of Programmes and Children's Commissioning for Hammersmith Council.
Hello, and to continue the long titles, I'm Councillor Alex Sanderson. I'm the Deputy Leader and responsible for children and education in the borough.
Hi, I'm Debbie Yao, Committee Coordinator of Governance and Scrutiny.
Hello, Nadia Taylor. I'm a co-opted member. I have actually been involved with the board for a good few years now. I've probably lost count, about 8 years, possibly. I came as a school governor representative and obviously stayed on. So yeah, that's me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Brown. My ward is West Ken, and I'm the Deputy Mayor. Nice to meet you all.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Great group in the room tonight. So thank you very much for coming. Just wanted to proceed to the agenda. The first item, apologies for absence. So we've had an apology from Councillor Mercy Ume. And I also wanted to take an opportunity to welcome Councillor Trey Campbell-Simon, who's attending the meeting for the first time. It'd be online, joining remote tonight and ongoing in person, but also to thank outgoing Councillor Lucy Richardson and also Eleanor Allen, who was one of our representatives for their past contributions. So thank you very much to them both. Nandini Ganesh, who's Parents Active representative, is attending remotely, as is Trey. So just to... Nandini, did you want to come in and say hello? Trey, did you want to come and say anything? Totally up to you.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Nandini Ganesh. I'm really sorry I couldn't come in person. I didn't want to pass on some infection. So I'm not feeling very well. So yeah, thank you for this opportunity to join online.
Thanks, Nadine. Oh, we've got a bit of a karaoke night sort of sound effect going on in the room, so sorry about that. Nandini, thank you for being one of those people who doesn't come in and soldier on inverted commas and spread viruses. That's much appreciated. Councillor Campbell-Simon.
Yeah, just to say, pleasure to be here tonight, and looking forward to doing some great work on this committee.
Awesome, brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay. Right, declarations of interest. Any members have any declarations of interest? Any items tonight? No? Good, excellent. Item 3, minutes. Do members agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of March this year as an accurate record? I'm seeing some nods. I'm going to take that as agree. Thank you very much. So I am going to hand over, delighted to have you all in the room, to young people who in the borough, and we have a youth voice item for about half an hour. So I'll hand over to presenter Brenda Winnett, who's our youth voice coordinator, and we have a number of brilliant young people who will be joining. So we've got Elif Al-Nahar, we've got Albi Fenner, we've got Precisa Getzovic, and we've got Mahika Chandrasekhar as well. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining, and handing over to you, Brenda.
Thank you, Councillor Rowbottom. So yeah, my name's Brenda Winnett and I am the Borough's Youth Voice Coordinator, and I have the amazing job of supporting our phenomenal Youth Council in all their endeavours. I don't plan to say very much this evening. I am on hand to answer any questions, but really this is all about the young people and their approach to this. We've done a lot of work together over the last year and a half, and they're going to tell you all about it. So I'm over to Elif, who's going to introduce.
Again, hi everyone, I am Elif, and we're here to represent the Youth Council and are really excited to be here. And as we present, we'll all introduce ourselves and say what we've been able to get out of being a part of the Youth Council, just as an extra for you guys. So I'm 16 years old and I've been involved in the Youth Council for a couple of years now. And my role is Member of Youth Parliament. So I represent Hammersmith and Fulham nationally to do with decisions around young people, which is quite a big role, but very excited to see what I can get out of it. And one thing I've been able to get out of Youth Council personally is simultaneously being able to develop myself personally, like growing, but also being able to have an impact on young people throughout the borough and continuing to strive to make change, which I think is really amazing to do. So through being a part of the Youth Council for quite a few years now, I've been able to see the progression that we've been able to have, and I'm proud of what we've been able to achieve and what we can achieve in the future. So we really wanted to make sure that our voices as young people are heard through research and empowerment through everything that we do, and to be able to make a change in the borough for young people. And we honestly think that if young people aren't listened to, and if you don't listen to us and involve us in things like co-production, then it won't be right, and things that are targeted to young people won't be what's needed. So we've used young people's identified priorities to lead the way of all our work and identified priorities to shape council services involving the offer, design, delivery, and workforce. So we take that through everything that we do. Next slide, please. So everything that we've done so far within the Youth Council and will continue to do is in an evidence-based approach. And that just means that we're using evidence to show what we need to do and complete as Youth Council. So we've completed a mass research project, which went on for quite a few months to build on intelligence that's already in the community, but also really investigate our key areas of focus. And we've spoken to thousands of young people around the borough in a multidisciplinary approach. And we've also taken part in evidence-based training to make sure that all the work we do is evidenced and we are doing what is necessary for young people across the borough. And all the work we do is person-centered. So we work around young people to ensure that we can work with a range of youth voices in ways that work for them and make sure that the voices we do have are inclusive and involve everyone and every young person within the borough.
So again, hi, I'm Albi Fenner, I'm the youth mayor. And one thing I'm able to get out of the youth council is being able to be in a position now where I can help young people like me, being able to lift barriers and have a voice. Because as a young person myself, growing up, I never had a voice, I never had a chance to speak. I struggled a lot in school, I struggled a lot at home as well. And being able to be in this position right now is a massive opportunity, and I'm very grateful to be able to be in a position that I am today. So onto the evidence-based inclusive research. So we tried lots of different ways to help people come to the youth council meetings, as some people don't want to come or can't come for some reasons. So we tried different methods and techniques, such as like social media, promoting what we do, places that we go, events that we launch. And we spoke to some people like out in the area to be able to spread the word of what we do through word of mouth. And so we had events like the Summer in the City, so the Art in the Park. We got to see lots of young people come together, explain their voices. We had a lot of different experiences and stories coming from them and how they want to have their self. Nothing about us without us, obviously. And yeah, we also reached out to, through this, we reached out to a lot of young people, and we reached out to places like schools, special schools. We reached out to the William Morris Sixth Form. We reached out to the Masborough Youth Club, the Solgrove Youth Club, and the Action on Disability AOD, and the West Youth Zone. And multiple methods we're doing our meetings. So like videos, Mentimeter, social media, through specialist practitioners, one-to-ones, and of course, PSHE lessons explaining the sides of healthy relationships, drug use. That's basically everything here.
Hi everyone, as I said, I'm Precisa and I'm the Deputy Youth Mayor. And out of Youth Council, I've been able to get a lot of different opportunities that I was not expecting to have until I at least got to 18 or 16 years old. Just like yesterday, the Memorial Day, I was not expecting to be able to do that, even though I am the Deputy Youth Mayor. And carrying on to what Albie said, after all of the research, we needed to decide all our actions to carry on with what we want to do. So we had many meetings with the strategic leads, and strategic leads are the people that will help us to get to our goal. It has taken a very long and busy year, and we are still not fully done. But now we have a clear set of actions that we want to carry on with. So now we are ready to start putting everything into action and start getting everything ready to be done.
Hi, so as I said, I'm Mahika, and what I've gotten out of being part of the Youth Council is I've been able to feel as though I'm making a change to the borough that I go to school in, and I feel as though I'm making a change to many young people's lives. So now we'll take you through our main priorities. So as you can see the slide, the layout, so we've got the strategic leads, the key partners, and the leading departments. So you can read that, and I can quickly cover that. So the leading departments, commissioning, public health, and youth voice, and strategic lead is Alistair Ayres. And then key partners are CAMHS, Mind, and then NWL ICP. So then you've got priorities and the actions that we have identified. So our priorities, we have co-produced and support the promotion for Best For You, which is a mental health website. And we made this website up to date with accessible and easy to navigate information. And we focus on local support, and we want people to have direct access to these websites. We also have youth-focused communication, so using videos or maybe activities that people can take part in to help them with their specific needs. And there's a search function on feelings and emotions, and it's not just a long list that people need to read. We also make sure that the information is really easy to read and laid out quite easily so that people don't have to read big chunky paragraphs trying to scroll through to find that information. And we also support with coping with stress and emotions. And this brings all the information into one place. And we've also co-produced a mental health page for the Youth Hub if people are most likely going to use the Hammersmith and Fulham page and website.
Okay, so moving on to work readiness, and that's essentially making sure that young people feel ready for the world of work. And this is one of the key priorities that came up throughout all our research, because a lot of young people have been telling us that during things like PSHE or form times, there isn't really a structured way for young people to learn about opportunities they can have, things like developing a CV. So we thought this was really important for us to address and work on. So one of the priorities we wanted to work on was allowing young people to have access to live local opportunities and getting support with things like applications and work experience. And to be able to achieve this, one of our actions has been supporting, collaborating, developing a live youth focus section of Hammersmith Fulham Works, which I'm sure you will have heard of. And it just means that we're enhancing the work experience offer in line with young people's requests. And everything that's being done is in terms of what young people have identified have wanted. So we've taken part in live testing, which is currently in place to ensure that it's as accessible as possible for young people to use and really benefit from. And all in all, just ensuring that our priorities as young people is taken into account.
So following along from what Precisa said, this also comes under the PSHE subject, so life skills. So understanding finances and budgeting, say someone wants to learn how to take out a loan, open up a bank account, etc. Domestic skills like cooking and cleaning and food storaging. This also can come across as technological, so setting up a Wi-Fi box, setting up a TV. So basic first aid as they are an everyday need. And so time and diary management. For someone like me who struggled a lot with organizational skills, I used to not get in homework on time, a lot of assignments, especially in college now. The levels of stress are getting worse. And obviously with GCSEs coming up and mocks happening, we need to have our own skills, organizational skills, so time and diary management. And so our identified actions for this were to review and share a good practice and resource on life skills through schools, youth providers, and of course the Youth Hub. We want to influence commissioning decisions as well, helping out with open up clubs for young people to go to. And the Youth Council co-producing localized multiple purpose resources with key partners such as schools, youth providers, and public health. Sorry, doing the next page. Sorry. So staying safe. So our priorities were to help report crime anonymously, as the word snitching is being passed around in schools and of course in the area. And advice on vaping and nitrous oxide, as you know by now, the government is banning disposable vapes, but somehow people are still bringing it in and still dealing it illegally from the younger ages of 9. And so the education and key messages on healthy relationships, like how to tell if you're in a coercive, controlled relationships, if you're being manipulated by your partner, but also seeing like the good side of it, like what's healthy. Are you talking to each other? Are you having like healthy arguments? And key message to staying safe online. So this is like knowing when you're being like groomed online by other people. And identified actions were Youth Council promotion of the Crime Stoppers Fearless campaign. So the Fearless campaign is to help report crime anonymously, to produce a podcast and discuss a series on healthy relationships. We've only just recently recorded a podcast series on healthy relationships. We had people coming in and we all talked about like our experiences and how we would do things and how we would react in sort of situations. And we also had research in vaping and informing the ASB for the hate crime and the vape strategies.
The next thing is key performance indicators, which means that we want to know how we're getting along with our target and what is the next thing that we want to see. So the first thing is for our priority areas, which is mental health, work readiness, life skills, and staying safe. For mental health, we want to be able to get 500 young people to access key resources on mental health within the Youth Hub and Best for You, which are 2 websites. And then for work readiness, we want 1,000 additional young people to have gained awareness, 100 young people to be able to enable to have access to employment support and increasing employability skills, and aiming to increase numbers of people at least 50 entering sustainable employment. And then for life skills, all secondary schools aged young people to have access to co-produced life skills resources. And lastly, for staying safe, 1,000 young people to have access to podcasts, key messages, resources, and contacts on Youth Hub and local safeguarding children's partnership pages.
So following on from Precisa, the progress that we made with each of these indicators. So for mental health, again, co-produced and user-tested Best for You, and the Youth Hub, and it's being promoted. For work readiness, H&F Works are co-producing a youth-focused live opportunity page with Youth Council. And people in talent have identified additional work experience opportunities across all our departments. Then for life skills, again, like Albie said, Summer in the City 2024 had a week of focused week of life skills activities. And developing life skills is now a key requisite for 3SIF funding. And then for for staying safe, the content for our Healthy Relationship podcast, which we've already mentioned, and the discussion series is now agreed, and key partners and facilities are confirmed for production. And then we've had multiple sessions with young people to inform ASB, hate crime, and vaping strategies about our progress with this.
Thank you. So to conclude, what is next for us as a youth council? So we've got lots of things within our priority areas, which we'd like to keep you updated on about what we're going to do next. For example, the biggest thing coming up is the podcast launch event. So as Mahika and Albie talked about, we've got our podcast for on healthy relationships, and it's a key way for us to keep young people informed about something that they've highlighted is important for them. So our launch event will be at West on the 5th of December. You guys are welcome to come if interested. So that's where we're going to launch the podcast, promote the Youth Hub that's being developed and we've co-produced on, and Best for You, which, as touched on, is the website focused on mental health. And things like continuing to collaborate on the Hammersmith Fulham Works page, sharing resources on the Youth Hub, and then continuing to do work with other departments within the council to ensure they are youth voice informed. And we've currently got a very busy program of events over the next few months, and lots of people are asking to see us and work with us, which we think we are really excited for. And we've got a big recruitment drive coming up. So it just involves getting as many young people involved as possible with Youth Council and ensuring that we are as inclusive as possible and have a range of young people informing decisions that we are helping to make and voice. So thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you so much. You guys are so impressive, and I really like the kind of emotional maturity of how you've looked at the problems, like what you've identified and how creative you've been. Like having a podcast, I'd love to come to the launch. So please let me know. That's super impressive. Thank you. Please do. Yeah.
I'm a teacher, and may I say I am so impressed by all four of you. When you've stepped down from these roles, please continue. You have amazing abilities, all four of you. You're fantastic, excellent speakers. Your diction, everything is wonderful. Very well done.
Absolutely agree. Couldn't say more. I think you were all super nervous, and obviously it's quite of daunting, to be in front of the microphone. But they've put a lot of work and effort. And I think for me, being in this role for 15 years, to see kind of the progression of the travel, because this is an absolute council-wide approach now. And the whole point of it is kind of to try and streamline, to really embed youth voice and co-production with young people across, and to bring our different departments. So it wasn't kind of vendor and youth council running around trying to do everything, or just children's services. It was much bigger than that. So it's been a long time kind of coming and a long build up, but we're really happy with the support that we're getting. We've got multiple departments, as you'll see from the slides, the economy, people in talent, really working with us, commissioning, absolutely working with us the whole way and supporting us. And these are some really, really kind of big changes that have been asked for by our young people. So it's been an absolute pleasure to work with. I think it's just important to say there's a really clear action plan as well, and you guys really explained it well. But there is that clear action plan, and it's owned by those strategic leads rather than kind of me and Youth Council anymore. So that's just kind of to add, and we do really appreciate all the different departments being involved as well. And well done, guys.
Thank you so much. I was actually going to ask you all if you maybe had some reflections, like top of head, of if you were involved last year, or even from what you've seen so far, like what you think has got better or been improved through what you've been doing. I was super impressed by you having KPIs. That is like really good to have that rigor. And what you think actually really needs a bit of a zoom in, a bit more focus from us, just top ahead, representing young people. Precisely.
Well, as we spoke about our podcast, we've been planning this podcast for as long as I've been here, basically. And we've finally been able to do it since the new youth club has opened. So I think that's one of the things that we've really been excited about since we finally got to do it.
So I've been a part of the youth council for like maybe 3 years now. I don't know, something similar to that. So I think at the beginning it was a lot of the work was relied to just be like Brenda or just the youth council, and it wasn't as if we were that interconnected to the rest of the council. Obviously we were the youth voice, but now especially recently, we've been able to interact with other councillors, other key decision makers, which I think has really pushed forward our work a lot more. So I think in the last few months, we've achieved a lot, and we've surprised ourselves with how much we've been able to achieve. So I think just making sure that youth voice is really been able to be integrated within like key decision making, and then sharing out that like common responsibility for youth voice to be integrated in so many key things within different departments, because I think that's really important, because a lot of decisions are about young people. So why not have young people directly feed into that and have that relation between us? So I think that's been a really good improvement I've been able to see recently.
That's great to hear. That's critical as well. That's great to hear. Mahika.
Following on from what she said, I think before we were relying on Brenda a lot more, but now we're like sort of more independent, and as Brenda's doing a lot for us, but at the same time we're also developing on all these ideas and like actually making these ideas ourselves.
Also, like from my perspective as well, like more people are starting to turn up to meetings, and even in the hybrid meetings as well. Even one of the meetings, 3 people walked in the room. It's like, I usually don't see that, and it puts a smile on my face, really, to like see people like coming out their shell and like, you know, expressing their opinions, because more people, more voices. Do you know what I mean? It's great. I feel like that's something that's really improved.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And you'll gain their trust as well by really listening, which you've obviously done, which is awesome. Nandini, I can see your hand is up.
No, Brenda and the Youth Council, as usual, brilliant piece of work. It's my usual question, Brenda, like, what is your experience of working with young people with disabilities? Like, I mean, with the next year, if at all we are in CPAC, it'll be nice to see someone with a disability also come and present alongside you. But how do you include them, and how do you make sure that they are included in the process?
Absolutely. I think there actually are young people with disabilities here tonight. Some of those disabilities might not be, you know, visible straight out. We've got a very diverse group of young people, increasingly diverse. Always looking to, you know, just reflect on the inclusivity of what we do. But when we first kind of did the first few slides in this as well, we demonstrated that we went right out throughout the borough. So we went to literally kind of every way that we could think of in terms of kind of targeted services that work directly with young people, our special schools. We did lots of different methods. You know, we had a week-long focused activity at the Stephen Wiltshire Centre as part of this, and a whole Youth Voice Week there. We also we did stuff with non-verbal young people, loads of different things that we did that fed into this, arts-based stuff, drama-based stuff. So it was an inclusive approach. We've got a big recruitment drive coming up, where we actually have the ADI lead, Yvonne, coming along to our session tomorrow night to help us with our recruitment drive to make sure that it is inclusive as well. So I think, you know, always can do better, always can do more, always reaching out. But, you know, these are a hub of young people as well, which these are only a representative selection of the young people that are on Youth Council, but always kind of continuing to do that. And certainly, you know, the actions that we've got have come from the research that we've done, which has been massively inclusive in terms of that voice. We work really closely with AOD and their youth board as well. They're a partner. We work with them all the time and kind of go along and have joint sessions. We're actually doing an equality training that's going to be led by young people. It's the AOD Youth Board alongside our Youth Council all working together to run an equalities training as well. So lots of different things, but absolutely, Nandini, if there's anything else that you think we could do kind of more of, then please do share and, you know, make any suggestions as well.
Will do, Brenda. Thank you so much. But wonderful work, Brenda. I really admire all your
Thank you. Lovely to see you, Nandini.
Thanks, Nandini. And Councillor Afzal Khan.
First of all, I just want to congratulate you all on co-producing such a fantastic, streamlined program that you have done. And just looking at the priority areas that you've created, they're so focused and so critical and so important. And listening to all of you speak your little bit and owning that responsibility and really feeling how strongly about the work that you're doing, it's very impressive. And it really blows my mind that you believe in the work that you're doing. And I think it also is wonderful that you're working with the different leads. And congratulations to Brenda for bringing along such a strong team and encouraging them to be the voice that they want to be. I'm going to ask you just one or two questions. With mental health, it absolutely is so important. The best for you, would you like to just explain a little bit more about best for you? How does it work and what does it do?
So we had a few meetings about the website, and we co-produced it, and basically we included all the young people's opinions about all these websites, and we fed them into Best for You and made Best for You like a really accessible website that is really easy to read through, obviously easy to access again, and much easier to read and understand. And we basically had these meetings tweaking the website, deciding, oh, I think this is not good enough. Let's change that and make it better for the young people. Rather than them having to search up on numerous search bars, clicking loads and loads of links just to get to the one place that they want to be, rather than just going to one place where you can just see, oh, well, there it is, let's just click it and it's done.
Great, that sounds fantastic. The other question was about the work readiness, and that's so important for the youth of the borough to be able to access work opportunities. So what are you doing with HNF Works?
As a younger person, I feel like when we were working with HNF Works, we were trying to kind of start getting people involved with learning how to do the basics, like cooking yourself some food, to finding a job and learning how to write your CV. As a younger person as well, I feel like it was very important, and it is very important to know what to do, because if it wasn't for my mum, who was also in this role, I don't think that I would have known what I do know now. So I feel like when we were working with them, they kind of just showed how they can help. And we were learning, well, we weren't learning, but we were helping to teach other young people. And we used their website, and we also tweaked their website a bit to make it more easy to learn how to do things like writing your CV and how to dress up even to go to a job interview.
Okay, so I think even for Best for You, the key thing that young people have told us and communicated to us is that they don't know about the local opportunities to them. So things focused to Hammersmith and Fulham. So for Best for You, the website is targeted to where young people can get support online through videos and support through websites, but also how they can access support locally on a Hammersmith and Fulham basis, which I think a lot of young people don't know how to get access to. For example, a lot of websites are like nationwide or London-wide, but a lot of young people want a local offer. So that's what Best for You really resonates with us, because it is local. So we've worked with people from the NHS to really collaborate on something which is meaningful to young people and can serve a true purpose to supporting their mental health. For example, me, Precise, and Albie filmed a video to be able to advertise what Best for You is and describe it. So it's a place where young people can get information tailored to them on a website which is really clear, and it is a local offer for young people within Hammersmith and Fulham. And the same with Hammersmith and Fulham Works. So it is Hammersmith and Fulham, so it's tailored to people within Hammersmith and Fulham. So it is a local offer, which I think young people lean more towards, because something national or like London-wide is quite scary. So us being able to collaborate on something like Hammersmith and Fulham Works is really beneficial. And it's where like young people can get work experience opportunities. For example, like a key partner is L'Oreal, which is in the borough. So work experience opportunities from there. Being able to tailor the approach they take towards young people. So how do they advertise things which are key to young people, like developing a CV? How do you get a job when you're 16? And how do you like what do you have to do to get that? Which a lot of young people are striving to do. I mean, I always get questions like, how do I get a job at 16? Because you can get a job. So I think that's why the work we do is so important, because it does bring that youth voice approach towards key things that young people need and have told us we need through our evidence-based approach.
And just to add as well, so we've got what's called a Developing Youth Hub. It's in a so the Youth Hub is on our Family Hubs pages, and it's a youth focused section, and it will reflect the priorities of the young people. So there will be a mental health section, staying safe, life skills and work readiness pages. So the young people in co-production on that at the moment. So it will link to all of these other sites. So there's not lots of kind of traffic, lots of searches. So you'll have the H&F Works Youth page will be directly accessible from there. Best for You will be directly accessible for the mental health bit. So just an easy page. So we're co-producing that at the moment with our comms team, and that will be launched as part of the event on the 5th of December as well. So we'll be launching the Youth Hub as well as the High Healthy Relationship podcast series as well.
Brilliant. I was just going to mention, but I'm sure that it is thoroughly plugged into industrial strategy and apprenticeships, but that chime with me as well.
It is, yeah. We're working with the economy really, really closely. Paul Thomas, colleagues earlier, and the whole purpose of this was there was kind of a lot of opportunities that were being pinged around, and young people were not always seeing those opportunities, and it was quite frustrating kind of for me to get sent lots of opportunities, but also the young people themselves were saying, oh, we don't know where opportunities are. So that was one of the key priorities. Therefore, the economy now have kind of taken this on board and really working with us to produce that youth focused section of the H&F Works site that's easy to understand. So that's a work in progress again. That'll be launched again as part of this. So, but they've been coming out doing user testing, making sure it's what the young people actually want. So it's a really kind of good example of that full co-production, but also of the department taking ownership of the priorities from the young people, which is what we really want.
It would be great actually to make sure that your event on the 5th is circulated to all of our, I'm sure it will be, but all of our Great and the Good, like in the north of the borough, because they would love what you're working on. This is all of our kind of businesses and the university and lots of people who are like part of the SMEs in the north in the kind of White City area will be where you're having your launch will be super excited about this. We and Councillor Sanderson and I went to a great event at West Youth Zone a few weeks ago, which was like about that whole centre. So there was like a really interesting cross section of people who were like so fired up about all the stuff you're talking about, how to make young people's lives better. So maybe an action for us, Debbie, just to make sure that's like circulated to all of our networks as widely as possible to get the biggest exposure for you. Amazing. Thank you so much. Truly impressive. Are there anything else that anyone wants to add as final things? Otherwise, you are in. Oh, sorry, of course, Nadia.
I mean, you've received a great deal of praise and it's very much earned. I just wanted to add my voice and congratulate on how inspirational you are to your peers as well. So I know you're obviously representing a large body of young people in the borough, and it's just so wonderful to see the confidence with which you've come and addressed what is quite a formal forum this evening. And I know, I mean, it's obviously a credit to Brenda to have coached you and prepared you, but also don't shortchange yourselves. This is your own skill and the learning that you've, you know, the journey on which you've travelled in doing that. And Councillor Brown is right. When your roles come to an end, because these things do, keep it up. You know, this, you probably won't think of it now, but this may well be the beginning of a much longer journey, a career that one day, you know, you may be addressing far larger forums. And yeah, you should be very proud of yourselves. I certainly am very proud of you. And you've been really, really a pleasure to hear this evening. So thank you so much for coming to tell us about your work and for explaining it and setting it out so clearly and so efficiently. And yeah, you're amazing. Well done.
Couldn't say it better. And you are very welcome to stay for our really thrilling rest of meeting. But I also will release you all. I know you're incredibly busy and it's late and all those things. So thank you so much for coming and joining us. But yeah, I release you into freedom, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But you're super welcome here, and thank you so much for your time once again. Nice to see you again. Funny. Okay, thank you very much for bearing with us, everyone online. We were just giving our Youth Council a very warm send-off. We are moving on to the next item of the agenda, which is the SEND outcomes progress. I'll be handing over to Peter Haylock, who's our Operations Director of Education as SEND, and supporting the presentation, and the key guest is Natasha Patton from Northwest London ICB. So thank you so much for joining us. Great to have NHS representation. We always want to work with you guys more closely. So thank you so much for joining. Over to you both.
Thanks, Councillor. So this follows on from a request from the committee members to look at more specifically the elements of the outcomes for SEND. So if you remember back in, I think it was our last meeting, we shared with you our SEND strategy and the kind of direction of travel. And this is kind of an update for you in terms of the types of work that we've been doing and the some of the successes that we've had in this particular field. So you'll remember previously that, and obviously on the council website, we have our SEND vision, which is the key element is that we want Hammersmith and Fulham to be a place where every child and young person leads a happy, healthy and fulfilling life and achieves their life goals. And we very much measure that through our kind of outcomes framework and the work that we've put together to kind of make that our kind of key objective. Just on this slide at the bottom, and I won't go through the kind of slides in too much detail because I'm sure you've got plenty of questions and things, but the key for us, and it's great to have Natasha here because partnership is the key to SEND, because what we must always remember when we're looking at SEND is we're not actually talking about the local authority, we're talking about our local area, and we're talking about our commitment and work with health, with social care, with education, with schools or other stakeholders, the children and young people being at the absolute core of that. And that's why the young people's voices are so important. And it's great that we've heard, obviously, fantastically from some of the young people previously. And co-production very much sits at the core of everything that we're aiming to achieve in terms of listening to residents, etc. So this links into how this sort of has been created. And the SEND outcomes framework essentially was designed by the children and young people. So it links very much to what their outcomes came from and wanted to be, and it came from doing sort of detailed surveys and research and conversations with them. We then took those outcomes and identified a clear set of priorities, and then translated that back to the young people, back with work with the young people to identify what it actually means for them. Because sometimes you can get into, frankly, too professional a speaking, it actually loses some of its meaning within the theory, and that was absolutely key for us. So then we've actually looked at what our outcomes have actually delivered, and I'll pass over to Natasha to talk us through. Is this one of me? Sorry, apologies. So what we've therefore seen is a kind of a really kind of clear focus within the outcomes on some of our key metrics. We talked about KPIs earlier and how we kind of really drive that through. So we have really focused in on some of the checks, etc., that we want to do, especially around new birth visits. And you see there that we've had a significant increase in quality of improvement in performance within that. Partly, I think, due to when you have that kind of laser focus on something, you're able to see that kind of key improvement coming off some of the back of the work that we've done. We have a very good network of Senkos. Some of those are quite new in post, so we're really careful with the kind of support and guidance that they have. And we still have, and have done so for well over a year now, 100% of our schools are rated as good or outstanding, which we're really pleased about. And we continue to focus on that being really important. Within the local authority support services, we get really good feedback from schools around those services. So our EP service, apologies, I should have put that in longhand, our educational psychology service gets really positive feedback in terms of the support that they provide. And we also have a number of other teams that work with the schools directly around, for example, our joint communication team with a very specific focus on speech and language, and also the Autism Education Trust, who work with the young people with autism, sometimes in class, sometimes out of class, just to kind of give them that kind of differential level of needs, etc. You can see here that the JCT, the Joint Communication Team, have worked with over 140 young people, specifically in early years, and school employees as well, to give lots and lots of training in terms of what those people need to do to be able to support the children in class. The whole key of this is that you're kind of creating a sustainable system. So working with the staff, teaching assistants, teachers, etc., specialist teachers to provide that support. And you can see here some of the outcomes of what those interventions have been. Red essentially means the young person was unable to kind of do the kind of key element of the training tool. And green means they're pretty successful. So you can see the shift there from 31% being green at the initial assessment, and then 61% being green after the teachers or the teaching assistants, whoever it may be, have done the intervention. So that's really, really key for us. We have a small specialist SEND support team that continue to work in a more specific way with children in school as well, and that kind of the whole purpose of this is it adds to the kind of the steps that we need to take. So that's the kind of key things I think on those elements. And then we'll just move on, and Natasha talk to us a bit about some of our waiting times and some more specific elements in terms of health.
Thanks, Peter. So one of the things I thought would be helpful to pick up is around our autism waiting times, because they have been a challenge for us. But we invested £1.6 million into our child development services and CLCH, our community partner, to increase the capacity, which effectively means recruiting more staff to be able to carry out those assessments. And over the last 2 years, there's been a consistent reduction in our waiting times. There's a bit of a different pathway for over fives and under fives. So for over fives, that waiting time has come down from 283 weeks to 82 weeks from September 22-23 till September this year. So that's sort of down from, if you want to translate it to years, 5 years to 1.5 years. And for our under fives, that's reduced from 172 to 52 weeks over the same sort of time period. I mean, I think that's a significant achievement. I know it still means those waiting times are a bit longer than we would like them to be. I know our health professionals continue to work really hard to bring them down even more. But, you know, given that the waiting times are what they are, we just want to make sure that our children are accessing support while they are waiting. The Child Development Services have developed a Waiting Well offer. They've got leaflets that they hand out to families that describe what services they can access while they're waiting, making it very clear that those services, you don't need a diagnosis to access those services. And a range of those services, as Peter indicated, really, you know, it's partnership working, and those support services range across health, education, social care, and our voluntary sector. The offer is really sort of consists also of pre-assessment clinics, groups, workshops. Our clinical psychologists offer consultations and coffee mornings. So I think that's quite a, you know, a good offer for them, and continuing expanding and listening to our families about what's working and what more support do they need. The other area I wanted to touch on was around our emotional well-being and mental health of our young people, which follows on really nicely from what our young people have talked about already. We have mental health support teams in schools that cover 11 primary schools, 10 secondary schools and colleges, and 2 specialist schools. And we also have some specialist trained autism and learning disability practitioners. We've got some more funding from NHS England to roll out more of those services from early 2025. And I know they're in the process of recruiting those practitioners and building relationships with the schools to work out where the priorities sit in terms of which schools are going to most benefit from rolling out more of those teams. In 23-24, we had 244 clinical contacts for our children with SEND, which included a range of face-to-face, video and online sessions and targeted groups. And I know that the individual and group psychoeducation sessions were adapted to the needs of the young children, including those with autism or learning disability needs. And we've got some really great feedback from those sessions where our children and young people have said that they've got a 93% increase in their knowledge, skills and confidence. And our parents and carers are reporting they've got a better understanding of the mental health symptoms of low mood, anxiety and behavior challenges, as well as feeling more sort of confident at implementing the strategies that they're learning about. And following on really nicely from what our young people have been talking about, for those children or young people who are on CAMHS waiting lists, they're being signposted to the Best For You app, which our young people have co-designed, to make sure that they are getting the support they need while they're waiting. And similarly, our ADHD waiting times have also come down. There have been some sort of streamlining of the services, making sure, you know, that the right information comes in at the point of referral. And our waiting times there have come down from 10.5 months in September last year to 4 to 5 months in September this year. So some nice stories on our waiting times there. I'll hand back to Peter to carry on.
Thank you. So key things also obviously related to our schools and some of the work, etc., that's happening there. I think we've spoken briefly before about the importance of attendance and the kind of focus on that's been across the board. In general, we compare positively in terms of attendance compared to the national average for our young people with SEN support, etc. And that's a similar case, as a causal link in a sense between attendance and suspension rates and permanent exclusions. So that's something that we continue to work on and ensure that schools have got the right support from our outreach teams so they can do the early intervention work that's required to ensure that those percentages stay low. We have a strong focus with the young adult partnership model, which includes multi-agency panels, really clear transition tracking, and we're kind of working on our link workers, but for young people aged 16 to 25 that can assist through the Hammersmith and Fulham CAMS team and MINT teams in supporting young people, especially through their transitions, which is such an important time. And we're working very closely, as we've heard briefly before, about with the H&F Works and others at different post-16 options and choices to support young people with their employment opportunities. In 2023, we supported 28 learning disabled residents into paid employment, lasting a minimum of 3 months on the living wage or above. And at the moment, in 24-25, we have 15 young people that have gone through the same kind of processes. We're really keen to continue pushing that work, and obviously linking in with what you were saying before about the industrial strategy, how we continue to bring partners on board with that through our work with the economy, etc. It's obviously a very key part of what we want from that strategy in terms of its inclusive nature and continuing to shape that moving forwards. So we have key elements in terms of what our impact needs to be. As you've heard, we're kind of very focused in on the data and other key metrics. There's lots more things we could bring through to you in terms of the details, but it's going to be somewhat overwhelming. I can't remember how many pages the SEND scorecard has, but it's quite a lot. So, but as I said, the key for us really is to focus in on the outcomes which have been co-produced with the young people. It's important to make sure that we've got that clear understanding of the health data, public health data, etc. Listening to feedback. One really important thing for us in January coming in 2025 is that we get far greater responses to our SEND survey than we had this year. This year the responses were too low, frankly, and we really need to think about how we're pushing that out to the parents and making sure that we get responses back. We continue to review our inspection reports and things like that from Ofsteds within the schools and looking at what's happening. We've got a big focus on our multi-agency education healthcare panel, looking at quality assurance and looking at the quality of our plans. And I'm pleased to say that although our rates of tribunals are increasing, as you're seeing very much nationally, they still remain low in comparison to other local authorities, and similarly in terms of mediation and complaints, etc. And I guess the final thing is working through how we continue to focus on working with our family hubs and co-location of services so that we've got opportunities for that kind of direct sort of interactions and discussions with young people and parents. I think that is everything. So I'm going to hopefully stop sharing.
Great, thank you very much. I have some questions, but does anyone else want to leap in? I don't always want to hog chair's privilege. No, we're good. I was just going to open by obviously recognising the massive reduction in the autism wage, which is great. And I know that it's kind of tricky to churn through. I wondered how the referrals are made and how the waiting list is kind of prioritised or segmented, or, you know, take that in whatever direction you want. Like, is there a better, with the, you know, demand versus supply of appointments, is there any kind of way you would see strategically of that being better or better filtered? Or maybe that's, you know, this isn't my area at all, so I'm asking quite you know, without specialist understanding.
So I know, for example, that in the child development services, they screen all the referrals that come in, or review them, I should say, really, and just look to see if there are any things that need to be prioritized. So, for example, if there's safeguarding concerns, or if there's a risk, for example, of a school placement breakdown or mental health concerns, they would prioritize those cases. The way referrals are made, I think probably in the main, a lot of them come from schools, because, you know, autism is part of the social communication spectrum. So you could have social communication difficulties without having autism. And, you know, the way it presents really is often in the interaction phases. So you may not notice, for example, that a child with higher functioning autism has those difficulties in their first stages of development, but it becomes clearer as the child interacts more in social situations. So it's often in a school environment that those traits become more evident, and then referrals are made there. But we are working in a very multi-agency way with our educational psychologists or our short breaks workers or our health teams to make sure that everybody understands about those sort of signs and symptoms to look for. And so in schools, I know they're using the Autism Education Trust kind of approach, which really upskills the teachers to understand what to look for and how to support them. And then similarly, we have the autism outreach services through Inspire, a local authority service, which really supports the schools again to implement strategies, and you don't need a diagnosis to access that. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's helpful. And what's the rate of diagnosis, or maybe it doesn't appear from that first assessment, but what's the rate of diagnosed autism from that referral number?
I think a very high percentage of them get the diagnosis once they've been referred.
Yes, okay, very interesting. Okay, thank you very much. Peter, did you want to come in with anything else? I can see Nandini and Councillor Silkan. Nandini. We've got you muted still, Nandini.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, got you.
Yeah. No, I was just struggling to understand the RAG rating for speech and language therapy. I kept looking at it again and again, and I was trying to understand how do you, red feels as if you come down from the initial assessment to the final assessment, green and amber. How did you arrive at those figures? So I was just slightly struggling to understand that RAG rating.
So, oh, sorry, I don't know. Has anyone else got their microphone on? Is that better? Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, sorry, Nandini. I can get one of the real experts to talk to you about another stage, but essentially, from my understanding, the key is, so it's how the student has performed on the progression tool in terms of the different assessments. So if they've come up red, it's essentially it's a real significant weakness for them in terms of their speech and language skill. And if they've come up green, then it's something that's relatively strong. So what it shows here is the progression from essentially once the young people have had the intervention from the class teacher or the teaching assistant, the 8% which was red has moved to 2%, whereas the 31% that's green has shifted to 61%.
I think we'll have to have a separate conversation on that table because
we could pick it up at another stage.
Yeah. Can I ask another question, Chair?
Yeah, of course.
Again, the mental health section of the report, you said 244 children with SEND has accessed clinical appointments, either face-to-face, video calling, etc. Is this through CAMS or general mental health support in schools, etc.? And who does deliver the mental health support in schools?
Sorry, I didn't hear the end of your question, but so just ask the second question again.
Who delivers the mental health support in schools?
Okay. So yes, those 244 clinical contacts just relate to the mental health and schools teams, and that is delivered by HFE Mind.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
This does not involve the children seen through CAMS?
No, that's separate. We have separate statistics on the number of children seen by CAMS, so that doesn't relate to CAMS at all.
Okay. And how do you measure the effectiveness of the intervention? Like, for example, I know you've given few statistics there that some parents are quite satisfied in their knowledge, etc. But do you see a marked reduction in mental health problems in school for children with SEND?
So I might have to ask the MHSTs if they could answer that more, but my understanding would be that they do sort of surveys or pre and post intervention, asking for the service user feedback. And that's how they've measured that, is that, that they asked them before they had the workshop and after they had the workshop, how did they feel after the workshop? Has it increased their knowledge? And that's what the children and young people are saying, is that yes, they do feel more confident after the workshop.
So it's more workshop based, is it?
A lot of their work is workshop based. They do some one-to-one work, I think, with children in schools for specific referrals, but a lot of their work is also around upskilling teachers, teaching staff, and they also run parent workshops, I think, to support in upskilling the school staff to know how to manage mental health needs, which will be really important in early identification and early intervention then.
Can I ask one more question?
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry, I forgot briefly. I was the chair giving you that authority. Yes, of course, you absolutely can. Yeah, go for it.
Again, these children go through mental health teams in schools. How are they then passed on? Are they passed on to CAMS, or how does that follow through as well? Because what I'm trying to really see here is how effective mental health support in schools is. And Peter, we are focusing on that in the Partners in Change initiative as well.
So I think that the MHSTs work quite closely with CAMS. So, if they're in the school, then it may be that a teacher will talk to the practitioner from the MHST in the first instance. But if the MHST practitioner thinks that actually the needs are of a higher, that actually requires more expertise than they are able to provide, they will communicate that with CAMS and then pass the referral on to CAMS. So they work very closely together. It's a bit of if you want to think of it as a graduated approach, depending on the level of need, will depend on which practitioner would see that child or young person and work with them.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think the employment figures are quite impressive compared to previous years. I think the employment
You're quite
side
quiet, Nandini. Just to say, we've been sort of craning our heads closer, but if there's anything you can do to move a little closer to the mic, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
That's better. That's definitely better.
Oh God, I'm really close to the screen now. No, the employment figures seem to be quite impressive. Is the employment figures through the supported internships in schemes, or is it like general, the employment teams have worked towards the employment initiatives?
It's a mixed combination of the two.
Oh, okay. And you're just counting the people who've just entered into employment, isn't it?
I'm so sorry, I couldn't catch that.
I don't think that's you, Nandini. I think it's maybe our side that was a bit quiet. Do you mind saying that again?
Shall I? Okay. Is it those young people who have just entered into employment?
As I said, it's a combination of the two. So these specific figures are for people quite early in the employment career. So it may not be a supported internship, or it might be. It just depends on it's different people that we've brought into the statistics.
So okay, it could be okay. I think it's difficult to hear, so I'm going to stop here. Thank you.
Thanks, Nandini. Councillor Sultan.
So I have actually a couple of questions. My first question is that how many EHCP applications do you receive from schools in a year? And then how long does it take to deliver a final decision on those EHCP applications?
So you won't just get applications from schools. Sometimes it's from parents as well. So off the top of my head, we had 226 last year. And of those 226, 83% delivered within 20 weeks, which is the kind of national kind of benchmark. And then there's a number of reasons where you might not be able to do the plan in 20 weeks. Some of those are because of communication between the parent, and it's quite a complex case. Sometimes it's just because of capacity issues, obviously, with the team, when you sometimes get a significant number of plans that come in just before summer holidays, etc. So we're very much in a positive position compared to the national average, which is 50%. So we're going to continue to focus on improving those statistics.
And I'm hoping that you've indicated in your presentation that you're building more capacity so that you can process these applications better. So have you seen an improvement directly linked with the capacity building that you've done?
So the main area of focus for us has been on the quality of plans rather than the timeliness, because our timeliness is pretty strong. So the area of focus really is looking at how we ensure that the quality of our advice from our professionals is really good, which therefore means that the people writing the plan have got really clear outcomes, etc., to focus on, which then means that the people using the plans in the school really know what the young people need and how to support them.
Okay. So another question I have is that you've indicated in your report that the suspension rates for children and young people have really come down. What has contributed to the suspension rates coming down compared to nationally? Why have we succeeded?
So they've not necessarily come down, they've just always remained low.
Okay.
I think it's a combination of factors. I think we have good schools, purely to start with. We've got strong leadership in our schools. We've got strong teaching in the vast majority. Obviously, recruiting teachers is a real challenge, but it's something that schools work very hard on. And we have good support services. So where we looked at, for example, commissioning out or trading out our behaviour support offer, after discussions with schools and other providers, we decided not to do that. And that was something that we've continued to fund from the high needs block, because schools could see the positive of that work. Obviously, we know with schools, there's challenges in terms of budgets and falling roll. So we didn't want to leave that at risk. So therefore, we've looked at a way of funding that, and Councillor Sanderson supported us with that change in direction and change in decision.
Thank you. One last. Thank you for that. That's fantastic. Then the last question I have is that, are SEND pupils equitably allocated to schools around the borough? And how do you ensure that all schools develop good practice, procedures and systems for educating pupils with SEND? Because my concern is that some schools do have a much better SEND offer than other schools, and they're becoming a victim of their own success.
So it's a good question, or a couple of good questions. The first thing and the most important to remember is that SEND placements are driven by parent choice. And when you're going through obviously the education healthcare plan and the consultations around placements, parent choice is the one of the most important factors. Obviously, we have a conversation and work with the parents really carefully to look at what the different options need to be in terms of supporting them. And we can continue with that approach. In terms of developing the SEND offer, again, I refer back to the kind of quick answer previously in terms of our schools being good or outstanding across the board. Our results, especially in terms of SEND support, are incredibly strong compared to national average. And I think that many of our schools have got a very strong SEND offer. One of the things that we're developing this academic year is the use of our local area SENCO, who works with the schools to look at, obviously, firstly developing the SENCO network, but also working with the schools in terms of the implementation of the ordinarily available guidance, which is something that we talked about in the last meeting, how schools are using that, how they're using their notional SEN funding to be really effective, and we're piloting a whole school kind of review process using local area Senko and some external support to make sure that we've got that level of scrutiny that will then shape the different types of provision moving forward. And over the next year or so, we intend that process to be kind of used with all of our schools, so they've all got the similar sorts of advice and guidance in how to continue to do this well. I think it's probably fair to say that some of our schools are more expert in SEND than others, but then some of our schools are more expert in geography. That's just the kind of way it goes, I guess. So I think working with parents so that they understand the school system and can make the best decisions for their child is one of the most important things that my teams do.
Great, thank you. Do we have any, Nadia?
Thank you. I actually wanted to sort of bring into discussion a slightly different aspect. I am very concerned, and I'm genuinely trying to understand why it takes so long for the diagnosis to be made. Now, is it obviously, I understand pressures of the NHS, potentially capacity, staff capacity, but why does it actually take so long? Because, you know, you mentioned periods of years, really. And I can imagine from a parental point of view, and you're quite right, I acknowledge that obviously strides have been made, progress has been made, and I'm also conscious of the fact that manifestations appear as the child sort of develops further and integrates into the school system. But why is it that it takes such a long time for children to be diagnosed with autism?
So I think autism is a very complex condition. It's not like, you know, you don't just go for a blood test and the doctor can say, well, you know, the test says that you've got X number of, you know, bugs in your system, sort of thing. So and I think, you know, health professionals want to make sure that when they give a diagnosis, it's the correct one. They don't want to be handing it out like Smarties. So there's a very robust process that needs to happen where they ask for some evidence from the parent in terms of the developmental process of how has the child developed, what symptoms have shown, when did it start to present, when did you become aware of it? You know, you have a sort of potentially a 2-hour interview with the parent to do that. And then you have quite a robust sort of survey that schools need to fill in to provide the evidence there as well, and then you watch the child in clinic interacting with some toys and with other people. So it's and you usually need a team of people to do that. So it's not just one person doing the assessment, and then I think it's becoming more complex because often there is some children present with autism but also ADHD symptoms. And then the child is coming in with complex needs and sometimes also with mental health needs, because there's quite a high percentage of autistic children who have mental health needs. So I think it's a very complex process. I think that, you know, just that complexity on its own doesn't on its own account for why we've had waiting times for 5 years. I think that the demand for autism assessments has increased significantly. And our services were not funded for that increase in demand. So, you know, it's good that we've now got some increased funding to try to keep up with the demand, but the demand continues to come in at quite a high pace. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but.
Well, I mean, this is very helpful, and it's completely a layperson's question. But what I was trying to understand is whether it's a question of the process itself taking a long time, i.e. intervention is already occurring, or is it purely a question of waiting until the child is beginning to go through the process of observations, you know, in clinical intervention, etc. That is what I was trying to understand, but it may well be a combination of both. I mean,
yes, I think it is a combination of both. I think that it obviously depends on, you know, is it the parent or the teacher who's picking up the symptoms who makes the decision that actually they're going to take the decision to make the referral and ask for the assessment, then making sure you've got all the information required to do the assessment. I think, I mean, I'm an occupational therapist myself and was involved in making autism diagnoses when I was still practicing as a clinician. I think that my understanding from families is that they find it helpful to have that diagnostic label because it helps them understand why their child is presenting in the way they are. But I think that you don't really need a diagnosis to access the service. So whether you have the label or not, you're going to present with the same social communication difficulties, and the strategies that can be used in class can help you. So more and more, we're really trying to focus on making sure we're meeting the needs, whether or not you have the label. But I think it seems that families and children themselves say they want those labels because it helps them understand themselves. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really complex landscape. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you very much. It's very helpful.
Sorry, my speaker has given up the ghost. Apologies. Thank you so much for all of that. I am almost tempted to ask, like, given that we've got obviously kind of budget and spending review coming out, and given the absolute shift in that waiting list, whether if you were given them, you know, the magic wand question, like what if, you know, whatever is the rate limiting factor is notwithstanding, is there an ambition for how that would, you know, halve again the waiting list, or is that unrealistic given the long timelines you mentioned, Natasha, really making sure that you got it right, provision of people to do the assessments or getting the multiple kind of different assessors together at the same time? Basically, I'm trying to ask, is there anything else that would help at a strategic level that could move the dial on that again, or is it, you tell me?
In terms of the autism waiting list specifically,
Yeah.
I think where we are at the minute is, if you look at the shift that's occurred over the last year, the key is just to continue that process. I think that we need to look very carefully at the demand coming through, working with health colleagues in terms of obviously early intervention, working with GPs, etc., so that we've got a clear understanding of what's coming through in terms of the young people and the children in very early years, working with the nurseries, PVIs, private organisations as well in terms of that that information. But I think if you look at the significant shift that's occurred, obviously if you said, can we double it again, I'm sure that the team could go twice as fast. But I think realistically, the resource has been put in relation to the need that was there at the time, and they'll continue to do the work that they're doing.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry, Natasha.
I think just the other thing that I know our health services in the Child Development Centre, who do the majority of the autism assessments, are working more and more closely with schools, because I think if the schools can do the work around picking up the evidence around how the child is interacting, how do they respond to a strategy, then that helps them in the diagnostic process, you know, to do so more quickly. And again, at the end of the day, to make sure that they're meeting the needs, because I think it's that interaction between health and education that helps us understand the needs of the children and make sure we're meeting those needs.
Got it. That's really helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm almost at loads, unless it's burning. I'm going to thank you both so much for reporting back. It's really good to have the kind of inquiry that happens in these meetings, and then it come through to bear fruit of really, you know, figures based and, you know, something that's strategically really moved the needle. So thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for your time, Natasha. Really value it. Thank you. Okay. Same applies about joining for further thrilling items, Natasha, but otherwise we'll thank you very much and release you and move on to our next agenda item, which is on our very brilliant family hubs. So I'm going to hand over to Alistair Ayres, who's the Head of Programmes for Children's Services. Thanks, Alistair.
Thank you, Chair. I'm conscious that you said at the start you wanted to try and get out by 8:30. So I'll give you the abbreviated highlights and take questions afterwards. So first thing is to say that actually family hubs have been a success. They've only been open 6 months. So if you roll back to January, we didn't have family hubs in the borough at all. We now have 3. The first one opened in February, which was our SEND specialist hub at the Stephen Wiltshire Centre, which was obviously a building that already existed, but the offer has become wider. And that was followed up in April by Old Oak and Tudor Rose. Old Oak, obviously, in the north, in Old Oak, and Tudor Rose in Fulham. I'm just going to pop up some numbers just to show how far we've come in such a short space of time. Key thing to remember that although it's been a short space of time, we have still got a long way to go. So we have the good news. We've got a lot of referrals coming through from GPs. In fact, they are our biggest referral other than those that come from our own services. So from those that come from early help or children's services with the children's centres, for example. And that's a really positive relationship that we took a lot of time fostering. And the GPs are plugged into all three hubs in a kind of dual referral. So we talk to the GPs about families that also have identified health needs because they've come to a children's centre. We do it with permission and in talking to the families before having those conversations. We have 31 parents and residents a day footfall who are just walking into the hubs. So they're not coming for a service. They're coming for information. They're coming to find out what's happening. They're coming to see what's going on in their local area. And then we see a lot of those 31 then return. So we have a split of about a 25%, 75%, 25% new people in the hubs and a 75% returners, which is a good turnover of people because it shows you've got a lot of people coming back because they need the services and they like it. But you've also got a good number of new people coming who maybe weren't accessing the services that they needed beforehand. So we've got 55 services running from the hubs at the minute on a regular basis. We also have additional services that run either ad hoc because somebody's got a program they want to run that's short or just a day. Some of the activities that I've talked about today, our young people talked about some of the stuff they did in the summer. Some of that happened in the hubs, for example. And we also work with our network. So not everything is in the hub. So we were plugged into the community as much as the hub. So we work with organizations such as Sepia and some of our youth clubs to make sure that if they've got activities that they want our families that are coming to the hubs to know, and we have hubs, families come to the hubs, we will send them to other community organizations for further activities. So there's 123 organizations plugged into the Family Hub network in Hammersmith and Fulham. So not 123 organizations are working out of the hub every day. We're talking about a huge breadth of organizations across the borough who might be very small and very focused on a specific individual need, or they're very big. So Bernardo's, for example, are plugged into the hubs. And then we've got Ray's Playhouse, very small organization plugged into the hubs. So when we launched, we had 700 people attend across the 3 launches. So it was a big event. And we've had 84,000, in fact, over 84,000 visits to the new Family Hubs website since it launched in April. Well, that was actually till the end of August. So I should imagine that 84,000 is more like 120,000 now. And we completely rebuilt the website from the ground up. So Brenda and the young people referenced it in their presentation earlier. So we did a lot of work with young people in the youth council around what they wanted to see on the hub, which is where the youth hub, etc., came out of and why it sits in the same page. So you don't have to go all over the place looking for it. And we did work with Nandini, who's online, Parents Active, and other co-production partners about the best way for the website to work that served the people who go to the website rather than us who look after the website. The training courses that are referenced on the bottom there, so that was all for staff. One of the key drivers in the hub is anybody who works in the hub should have at least a basic understanding of everybody else who works in the hub. So not everybody is an expert, but at least if you have a conversation with somebody who walks into the hub with a children's centre worker or a health visitor or somebody about housing, those professionals should be able to pick up on signs in those conversations of other organisations or people they need to talk to. So that there was a huge training package for every professional in the hub, so people had that understanding, which is, you will have seen in the case studies. I'm not going to run through the case studies, but in the report, those identifications of need are happening a lot quicker and they're going to the right people. And finally on this slide, and then I'll talk a bit more about generally how the hub's progressing, is the Power App. So we built from scratch a Power App. The Power App is essentially a Microsoft product that you can build data into, which you can then pull data out of the back. But what the Power App does is it allows us, as in professionals, to be able to make sure that the families who walk into the hub just tell their story once. So our family navigators, which I'll talk about a bit more in a minute, access that app. Families can actually see a very condensed front view to put their data in. And once it's in, they don't need to keep going in and doing that. I can see it if I'm a family navigator. I can see it if I'm working in the children's centre, and I can understand that family's need. It's not open to everybody, so it's not open to anybody who's not working to that family, so it is locked down and complies with data protection. But it means when we are going to see and start tracking what our higher needs are across the hubs, what services are people coming to access more, we can start to view and look at, you know, where do we need to shift services in the hubs, because it's quite fluid. So talking about the hubs more generally and family navigators especially. So family navigators was a role that was created specifically for the hubs. Their role is to help a family navigate through the morass of systems and people and organizations without having to just do it by themselves. One of the big things that we found when going way back to the early intervention strategy, which committed us to hubs back in 2022, was there are too many conversations, but the family doesn't know where to go and access all those conversations. So the family navigator's role is to identify those people in the hubs along with the team. So they won't just do it in isolation. They'll talk to the health visitors, they'll talk to the children's centre managers, they'll talk to the youth workers. What does this family need, and how do the navigator work with that family to make sure that health, if necessary, involved? There's a referral to a GP if it's necessary. There's a referral to early help if it's necessary, without just leaving the family to go and do that themselves. So it's a new role. We've only had the navigators in post since June, but you've already seen from the case studies, they've actually really started to reap a benefit, and we should see more and more of that as we go. So a very last bit on next steps. So we've got a lot of services. You'll see in the appendices, there's a huge list of services that are working in and around the hubs, but there are still some gaps. We know we need to fill a gap around domestic abuse services, and we're working with partners around that, and that's around advice. But part of that is making sure it's a safe space, and we need to think about how we deliver that carefully and properly. There's a bit of a gap around, or we filled this gap slightly. Young people, age range of around about 7 to 11, and services for them. So we had a lot of an offer for kind of 11 to 18. Our youth clubs were working out the hubs. Just in the last few weeks, we've actually launched youth clubs with our providers, Let Me Play and Harrow Club, in both Old Oak and Tudor Rose, to look after that kind of 7 to 11 to 13 age range before the older children come in. So you've got a bit more of a service, and that's new, so we'll have to review how that goes. And then we have recently, just in fact last week, secured extra funding from the DFE to take our app and data to the next stage. So we've built it. We've got some interesting things in there. Our next bit is to figure out how we make that data work better for us in the long term. So the DFE have had a look at a bid that we put in, given us a little bit of money to make it, to improve that data going forward. I won't share the rest of the presentation. It's all feedback. I would say overwhelming positive feedback, which you can see. I think it was 90 or 95% said that the hubs are a positive, welcoming space, that they got a service they wanted and delivered, and that they will come back.
Brilliant.
Any
Thank
questions?
you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alistair. And we realise this is only a few months in of and premised on a model that has been, incredibly successful before, but this is relatively early days, amazing results. I do have several questions actually, and again, I'm trying to resist Chair's hogging instinct. Would anyone like to open with anything, or shall I kick off? Nandini?
Can you hear me? I'll also try and type it out. Do you have housing support offered in the hubs? Because I just went through the appendices and couldn't spot that, but I just wanted to ask.
Thanks, Nandini. Yes, we do. We do have housing officer support in the hubs. They're not there every day. They're usually there on a monthly basis. But housing is a key part of the hub.
Okay, and more advice and guidance, is it? Information, advice and guidance.
That's right. Although if needed, we will, through the navigators, plug into housing officers and help work through the system in that way.
And most of the services you offer, I know Parents Active is also listed, but most of the services, is it like information, advice, guidance level, or does it go more into casework type of intervention?
A bit of a mixture depending on the need. So we do have services that are more front-facing. So, for example, CAMs are in there and provide a one-to-one service. Our health visiting, our midwives provide direct service. But we also have a need for information and advice. So, for example, CAB, smoking cessation, and advice services are equally important.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I've got a couple of questions, Alistair. I wondered, it would be really interesting to hear more about your the Power App data application to make data work better, because I don't know if this is what it is, or I was thinking 25% of the people presenting were previously kind of unseen. Really interesting, always obviously to see how we can draw out and bring in people who we haven't seen before, and I realise how tricky that is. And I wondered if you could give some colour to a word of mouth referrals most powerful in that area. Are we triangulating? You know, I know the NHS does something relatively similar around you know, kind of people who don't turn up to appointments, instead of putting them to the bottom of the waiting list, how can we actually proactively get into all of that kind of oeuvre towards trying to really kind of identify and pull out and engage people? I wondered if you could say a bit about how the approach around that and how you find people, or how they find family hubs.
So in the long term, the Power App will help with that. That's part of the reason that we created it. A lot of it is word of mouth. So we've seen our footfall increase month on month on month. That's because people have started to hear more about us. And that's through a variety of things. We've done a lot of work, like I mentioned, with GPs, but we're also pushing out to schools to make sure that families are aware. We've pushed out through our youth council and the youth clubs, pushed out through organisations like Parents Active and Nandini to get the message out. But one of the key things actually in our next steps has been, even with all this work, we still have people say, even last week, I didn't know we had family hubs in Hammersmith. So we're currently building social media pages specifically for the hubs to see if we can attract a more younger crowd who don't go to traditional websites or aren't really interested in leaflets, and see if that helps to bring in some younger people. We're working with comms specifically to understand messaging and what works and what doesn't work. And it's just a constant push, message, push ourselves into meetings. So I went to meet Eleanor at West last week, and we talked about family hubs and how West can fit in, and how they could refer young people to the hubs and make sure that they're aware, and vice versa, because obviously we're not far away from West and our young people going there. So really, it's about getting your feet on the ground and just pushing the message constantly.
You've anticipated my second question around West Usenet, because I know they were chomping at the bit to be more plugged in, and you might find that you have a golden offer for 7-year-olds, because I think they have 0 to 6 and then 8 upwards. So there you go. There's your competitive edge. And final thing from me is, a year in, so by next June, what would be your? Do you have a way of framing what you'd like it to be, or where you'd like to be by then?
Yeah, so we have an outcomes framework which we are working through to finalise at the minute, so that can come back next year. I think where we'd like to be is, the numbers that we've got are good, but we know they could be better. We've got gaps in service more around the evenings. So we've got a youth offer which works on different days in the hubs. So we've got opportunities to fill that time. So we are having conversations with community groups about how we can fill that space. You know, the hubs don't close at 5 p.m, but for a lot of people, that's still something to get used to. So if I'm coming to next June, I'd want to see our hubs on a more regular basis operating past 5 p.m. That doesn't mean that the council necessarily are delivering. It means there's community groups in the hubs delivering for the community. I think that's really our next stage. Is we've done a lot of work with third sector organisations, health, and ourselves to fill the time in the day. What are the opportunities for others to fill their time and need in the evenings? And that's our big push.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Unless any other further questions, I'll move on, but really great to have them. Great to hear about them. Really positive. Thank you very much. Okay, right. Final item on our agenda is an update on our recurring super successful Summer in the City programme. So I will hand over to Peter to give us an update on that.
So I'll be really quick on this. Not to say it's been, again, another fantastic programme. Really pleased of what the team have been able to put together. And I think that you can really see from the statistics here and some of the information what a super success this has been. I think the key things just to sort of highlight have been slightly different to previous years, and also, again, similar to previous outcomes, just looping back around to previous questions. First, I think it was really successful that the weeks were themed, giving different types of activities happening, just adding that kind of bit of variation that I think we've spoken about before. So the Eco Explorers Week, obviously linking into the council's commitment around the climate emergency, well-being, again linking in what we're talking about with the young people with mental health. The Olympics obviously was key, and then obviously some creative and some more STEM related activities in terms of future inventors, etc. So that was really good. I think things that I was really pleased to see was the very high percentage of young people that attended that were on free school meals, because that's obviously absolutely core to what the programme is trying to achieve. And I know that's something we've spoken about previously. Similarly, I was really pleased to see that we had a good spread of activities across the borough, because I know previously there'd been concern that the south of the borough didn't have quite so many activities, but you'll see there good numbers in the north, centre and south of the borough, which again I think was really important. And the final thing was it was great to see the numbers of young people with special educational needs that were able to engage in the activities. Obviously, we'd always like to kind of continue to promote and develop that, but that was a good sort of improvement on previous years. So all in all, something that obviously we look to where funding permits, etc., to continue to deliver on and provides those fantastic opportunities. I had myself had a chance to visit a few activities at the beginning of the week. So played a bit of rugby, did some theatre, and got messy with creative stuff, and that was just one afternoon. So I think it gives you an idea of some of the fantastic stuff that happens as part of the HAF programme.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Any questions or points of reflection? I know that we've spent a lot of time on this sort of previously, so brilliant to have an update, but I think we really got into the full dimensions and measure of it before, but excellent to see it was a success again. So thank you so much. I think we will just move then to the close. Dates of future meetings, so please hold sacred in your diaries 28th of January next year, and then the 22nd of April. Invites should already be with you, and we'll try and make it as early on in the evening as we can for everyone attending, Nadia. But thank you so much. A very rich agenda this evening, really different voices. So